Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here tonight for this town hall and just providing just general information about the upcoming charter election that will be on November 4th of this year. Before I start, my name is Richard Abernathy. I'm the interim city manager for City of Duncanville, but I'd also like to introduce our team that's here tonight. We have Mark Rauscher, our assistant city manager, Angel Deal, she's our project manager and works in city administration with us. And then we have Francisco Ramos, who's helping us film and take pictures tonight. So we're just going to really go through the slides and walk you through the propositions as well as some other additional information. And then we'll be available for questions afterwards. So we'll go to the first slide and kind of walk through. So this charter election really consists of 12 individual propositions that will be on the ballot for Duncanville residents to consider. It was developed by working with the city attorney for the City of Duncanville, and the propositions on the ballot are identified by letter A through L, and that's per state law. State propositions are numbered, propositions are lettered. The main purpose of this election is just to remove some outdated language and really align the city charter with current practices and state laws. And then also we do have a proposition B, which would actually extend city council terms from 2 to 3 years. So we'll go ahead and walk through the propositions. One thing I did want to mention also before we start is the last time the charter was amended was in 2005. So it's been 20 years. So Proposition A really just updates the annexation requirements for the city. It ends the city's ability to annex property into the city without the owner's consent, and then also the owners have to agree to that annexation too. That actually aligns us with current state law. That's what the current state law says now. But Duncanville is landlocked, so this is not something that would necessarily come up in Duncanville's future, but still, again, as I mentioned earlier, that the idea was just to kind of clean up some of the language in the charter, so this would just align us with current state law in the event there was an ability to annex additional property in the future. Proposition B, this is the council term limits. And again, like I said, it would extend the term limits for both mayor and city council members from 2 years to 3 years. The idea behind this, it would provide more continuity and stability in leadership. It would also provide election cost savings. So you wouldn't have an election every year because of the way the 3-year terms work. And elections can range between $40,000 to $90,000, just depending on how many people and entities are participating in the election. The city does contract with Dallas County Elections to do our elections, and so the cost term is on how many other entities are participating in that election. So it can really range variably. So there is an election cost savings component to this. And what we want to just kind of reference, just some examples of other cities that do have 3-year terms. Allen, Burleson, Coppell, DeSoto, Frisco, Midlothian are just some examples. There's other examples in the state that have 3 years, like Abilene, but more just kind of showing the example that there are other cities that do have a 3-term for their mayor and city council members. Proposition B is really just kind of removing any outdated election language throughout the charter. Again, just kind of streamlining and modernizing the charter text. And Proposition D is the interim city manager process. So right now, there's not really a formal process for establishing an interim city manager. And this would apply, obviously, if the city manager resigns or is dismissed or any other performance duties. Now, the city council has still, in the past, historically, obviously, appointed an interim city manager when that position becomes vacant. But this would actually, there's no real formal process that requires them to do that. And so this would actually do that. It would formalize that process and require that, and again, in the event a city manager resigns or is dismissed, you would have to appoint an interim city manager. Proposition E is just kind of it's a terminology update, really. It's basically changing. In our charter, our municipal court judges are referenced as magistrates. And if you look at current judicial codes for state law, it references those positions as municipal judges. So basically, it aligns our terminology with the current state code. Now, there's still magistrates by state law, but again, it just basically aligns that language. So it says municipal judge in our charter, and then it would say municipal judge in state law. So it's an alignment and a cleanup, as we'd say. We'll go on to Proposition F, which is election canvassing requirements. So the state laws have changed on canvassing elections. You have to do between 3 and 11 days. I think our charter currently says 5 days, but again, you have to follow the state law. So what that would do is just ensure that, you know, every time we have an election that we meet the state law and that we're aligned with that. Proposition G is kind of early, the one about the interim city manager. Basically, it allows the city manager to designate either an assistant city manager or a qualified designee to serve when the city manager is temporarily absent less than 30 days. So if the city manager was on vacation for a week, you know, it allowed him, that person, the ability to appoint somebody, but it would actually give some qualified designees. And make sure that you maintain operational continuity during short absences. Again, that's a practice that's happening now. It's just this more formalizes it. Proposition H is basically updating our city departments. We have a finance department, and that is current and best practices in every city, but there's no reference of a finance department currently in our charter. And so what this would do is, if approved by the voters, it would add a public finance department and just basically mirror our current practices and our organizational structure. It would also rename the water and sewer department as a public works department. Again, kind of standard practice in most cities, you have a public works department, and then, you know, as part of the public works, you have your water and sewer. And again, this is just a cleanup. It would just reflect current organizational structures. And Proposition I is budget. It's basically a budget transparency enhancement. There's been a lot of changes to state law, how when we do adopt a budget, the different notices we have to do, the requirements, and they've really changed a lot over the past several years. Most legislative sessions, they change again as far as what you have to notice, what it says. And so this would basically ensure compliance with state law and make sure we have that transparency. It just allows us to change with state law and just be compliant with it. Then Proposition J is just basically, it confirms the current structure of the council. You have 5 single-member districts, you have an at-large seat, and then a mayor elected at large. And so really it just removes any kind of transition language that's in the charter when they did this, and just confirms the current structure. And then Proposition K is our update franchise requirements. So franchises are like our cable and communication companies, gas utilities, water utilities, electric and phone companies. And in the past, if you needed to get a franchise, it was 60 days is what it currently says. But you know, again, that's changed as well. So it would actually make it 30 days. Also, with the laws on open records and Open Meetings Act, you know, you don't have the need for the 60 days anymore. And so it just basically streamlines that process and then requires that online posting process take effect. So again, it's just some cleanup language. And that concludes all the propositions. Just some election information for everybody. Early voting starts on Monday, October 20th and through October 31st. The dates and times are set by Dallas County. November 4th is election day, and you can vote at any Dallas County vote center, including the Duncanville Public Library right next door to us. And again, you can get that information on those election dates and times at Dallas County elections. You can call them at 469-627-VOTE, or you can go to their website at dallascountyvotes.org. And on the next slide, we do have a link to all this information as well as a QR code. We also have some individual placards here where you can do that. And also, if you don't, you can also give us a call. We can definitely provide you that information, but it is on the website. Again, the link's right here, and as well as the QR code. And again, all the stuff is in that one place there. But that really concludes the presentation. We thank you all for being here, but we're available for any questions.
Are you going to have curbside voting?
Curbside voting? I'm not really sure. I don't know. I don't think so. We'd have to check with Dallas County elections on that, but I don't. Oh.
We've always had it.
Okay.
We'll check on that.
Yeah, we'll check on that. Oh, we do. Okay, yes, we do still have that. My apologies for the confusion. Any other questions?
gonna cover the general election, the propositions for the general election?
We really were, mainly the focus was to do the charter election for the city. There are some state propositions that are on the ballot too, but really our sole focus was just the charter election information for the city.
I thought you guys were gonna have some information.
So we can't go to water anymore.
What?
We're gonna have to change that to sanitation, public works.
Well, they said from 6 to 8, so I thought that,
Still be the same department.
I thought it was scheduled 6 to 8, it's gonna be a
6
lot.
to 8, so they thought it was.
Yeah,
A
we'll,
lot of conversation.
Yeah. It was really just focused on city charter items, not.
Could have had it 30 minutes, couldn't you?
yeah, well, we apologize about that. Like I said, yeah, 6 probably would have been more appropriate, unless anybody else has any questions.
Well, this is showing my ignorance, but I'm really not sure on proposal F, the canvassing. Would you explain the election canvassing procedure to me?
So what we've been, the law now is when you canvass election, you have to canvass it with no earlier than 3 days after the election up to 11 days. Our order right now says 5 days, but we have to actually follow the state law, so it just basically aligns it with state law.
Well, I'm just not sure what canvassing is.
Canvassing is actually, so when they're in the result, when you get the results, it's unofficial. The council, for example, would canvass the election. They basically officially certify the results. By state law, once you canvass or certify, then the individuals that won the election can be sworn in, but you have to canvass it first. It's basically just officially certifying the results.
Okay,
It's just a formal procedure where they have to vote and accept the results.
They don't go back and recount.
It should be counting.
Yes. That's a good question. I'm glad you brought that up, that's a canvas. It's basically just officially approving or accepting the results.
okay.
Can you go over the proposal that is going to extend the term for the mayor and city council?
Yes, so on that proposition, so again, it was in those terms, and the way it would go, if the voters approve that proposition, the next election in May, anybody running for council in those places would be running for a 3-year term. Anybody currently serving on council that's in the middle of a 2-year term, when their term expires, there's another election for those places. Whoever wins that next election would serve a 3-year term. So it'll be in effect immediately for this next election, but anybody currently on would phase out when those terms are up.
So basically, you have one election, you wouldn't have anybody running.
And that's true too. Yes, based on the way it works, there'd be 1 year where there wouldn't be election, which is the reason there said there would actually be an election cost if it was to be approved.
So you talk about savings for who?
Savings for the city. So an election can range between, as I mentioned earlier, an election cost can range from, it depends on how many, again, we contract with the Dallas County elections to do our elections, and it's based really on how many entities are participating. So it can range from $40,000 all the way to $90,000, just depending on how many entities are participating. Usually in a national election or an election when all the cities are having elections for council members, mayor, etc., it's usually, like I said, on that lower range. But if you're doing an election where there's not as much, it can be more expensive. So again, the city has to budget that cost every year. And so with this, technically, if it was to be approved by voters, there'd be 1 year where we wouldn't have to budget that cost, and it would be a savings.
Those are the cities that are going to be having a 3-year election, right?
These are examples of cities in our area, in the North Texas area, that currently have 3-year terms for their city council and mayor. Yes. But we're happy to answer any other questions, but, and, we do have the QR code as well, and if anybody needs like a hard copy, I'll have my business card here, I'll be happy to get you something if you need it, so.
Is Duncanville gonna be entered into the three-year election also?
If this position passes, then yes, it would, yes. And it's up to the voters on what they want to do.
What is the proposition what?
Proposition B.
Proposition.
It's Proposition B. And as I mentioned earlier, all the city propositions, because there's a state election too, all the city propositions are lettered. So, but it's Proposition B. Well, thank you all so much again. We'll hang around. If you have any questions, we have our business card. We'll be able to answer any questions you have. But thank you all so much.